Yeah, no cursing. Hola, cage fighting connoisseurs. This is KidNativeBloodyElbow.com, joined once again by the inimitable, the inestimable, the ineffable Eugene S. Robinson, author of Fight, Everything You Ever Want to Know About Ass Kicking, but we're afraid you get your ass kicked for asking.
Nice. Thank you.
You're welcome. He's currently being heckled by Team Dream Crusher there at Leopoldo Serrao's.
Oh, he name-checked you.
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
That was the actual Dream Crusher himself who was giving me a hard time. So
I see. Nearly heckled you into cursing on the air, which
he did. And you know, I don't go for those Anglo-Saxonisms.
I know they're too curt, too short. Give me a more florid Latin curse anytime.
But I think there's something you need to tell the viewers, isn't there? Something you need to.
Something I need to tell the viewers, like what? You gonna gloat on some pics or something? Because the past. I'm looking forward, not back.
No, I'm looking forward to September 26th, I believe it is, when I step to the dais and receive my award, my online journalism news award, of which I am a finalist.
I see. This is the big one, huh? This is the one.
You guys have been laughing. I'm sure you've been laughing. MMA Journalist of the Year. You're not nearly as good as Karen Bryant or Ariel Hawani. What are you kidding? However, the Online Journalism News Awards has deigned to make me a finalist in their international competition, September 26th. I will rise in an audience full of peers just to have them pick somebody else, at which point I will flip out, turn over tables, and set myself aflame.
I see. More empty promises. Oh. How'd the Tony nominations go this year?
You know what? You're right. I have lost Emmy, Grammy, Tony, Clio, Bammy, and probably September 26th I will lose a Online News Journalism Award. However, I have won Maggie's, Ozzy's National Magazine Award, and of course I'm 2013 World Champ IBJJF.
Oh, and the Blue Belt Senior Division.
What does it with this guy? You know, hate is gonna hate.
There's nothing to be ashamed of about the Seniors Division or Blue Belt.
Who's quibbling? If I go to Mongolia, they don't say, "Oh, there's the Blue Belt champ." They go, "There's the champ."
There's the champ, because you might be the only champ they've seen come out that way.
No, Mongolians are tough guys. No,
they are, but they're not known for their jiu-jitsu prowess. They've got. Have you ever done? Yeah, judo and Mongolian wrestling, which is like a totally strength-based style. A friend of mine signed up for that in college.
Wow.
It's a completely masochistic undertaking. You learn no skills that you can use as a smaller guy. You just get hurled around by bigger guys a lot. It was a painful lesson for him. All right, and we're here for the UFC 177 Dillashaw versus Barao 2 Care Don't Care preview. Eugene, you got a disclaimer for us?
Yeah, you know what? In this last fight this past weekend, we could see with Chris Collard Greens that you know, it is very easy to make us jaundice types sit up and care. So if we give you a don't care, it's very specifically because the marketing efforts have failed you. But there's a door out, and the door out of that is, you know, you can shoot by all of their marketing failures and all their failures to promote you correctly with the proper PR, public relations. But if you fight a great fight, we'll remember you. So this is not a personal take on your personal skills. Don't be a crybaby about this. You've done enough and put enough behind you. But get us to notice you, and next time you'll be a care.
That's right, like Ben Saunders, who got the only omoplata submission in UFC history, and the opener of
yeah, or even in loss, Colliard Greens.
He did put on a show. So shall we get right to the fights?
And that's what's great about the sport, you know. I mean, versus some of those last few GSP fights that were nuclear bomb fights, and that they made the winner and the loser look bad. This Holloway Colliard fight was the exact opposite, where, you know, yeah, Colliard left a loser, but that fight made both of them look great.
It did indeed.
He underpromised. He was underpromised and over-delivered. Great.
Indeed. And your overall thoughts, your overall care, don't care level for UFC 177?
I care.
You care? 54.95 care? 45.95? What's your care level? Going out to a bar, finding a friend who's getting it?
Yeah. Well, you have to look at the continuum of my purchases over the time. Eugene is the friendliest guy ever, like once a week when there's a fight. The rest of the time, I'm a curmudgeon, but I'm like calling guys, asking how their wives are, how you doing. Hey, what are you doing this Saturday? Because I don't have TV, so I'm going over to your house. I'm showing up with wine even. So will I go through that effort for this fight? Yes. Have I spent money on any fights? I went to the UFC in San Jose, so I spent money on that.
Yep, there you go, there you go. My care levels for this one are pretty low, especially after looking over the full card. This is a UFC 174 level card here. This is painful, but let's jump right into it.
Okay.
Preliminary card, UFC Fight Pass, lightweights Chris Wade and Kane Carrizosa.
Do not care.
Do not care. I'm sort of intrigued by a guy named Kane. Who names their kid Kane? Huh?
Who names their kid Adolf?
Well, that's another question, but I'm not seeing any Adolfs on this fight card. I am seeing a Kane on this fight card, so I'm just curious.
I knew a guy named Adolf, and he was Adolf Jr., so they used to call him AJ, which means his father was named Adolf.
I see.
And he was not a Nazi, but somehow thought, you know what, I'm gonna make this thing work.
I'm just going to ride this out. Did he have a little Charlie Chaplin mustache, too?
No, he did not.
I'm rehabilitating the swastika. It's an ancient Hindu symbol, you know. It's got to do with galaxies and the renewal of circles and blah, blah, blah.
Fire wheel. I think the Native Americans had as a Thunderbird, the eternal life. Yeah, it's good luck. You could find soaps branded with it. And the Nazis, of course, have changed all that. But.
Yep, they did. And I'm still bitter about the Charlie Chaplin mustache because I think I would look great with the...
Well, hey, there's nothing stopping you, man. There's nothing stopping you.
Just only the shame and opprobrium of the entire civilized world.
Back to school night in Texas.
They would love it if I showed up in my little Tony West Austin kids.
Anybody have a question? Yes! I have a question!
I know it's a lot of portable buildings. What are we going to do about Lebensraum for the children? That's yes. All right. So Chris Wade.
Ich habe Fragen.
Oh, Eugene. Oh, Eugene. All right. Chris Wade and Kane Carrizosa.
So let me get this straight. You care only because the guy's name is Kane, or you?
That's all I got right now.
Okay. I guess we got to take it. You got to take it. All right.
I mean, because you're not giving a care.
I don't care.
Yeah. So all right. Sorry, guys. And now we move on to the Fox Sports 1 prelim card. So we've gone from UFC Fight Pass
Fox
for one
Sports,
fight.
Deep Space 1-9. I got it.
Exactly. I know you're on top of this. Bantamweights Joe Soto and Anthony Burchak.
You know what? It reminds me, there is a professional fighter who I will not talk about, who lost a fight, and his wife rushed into the cage, and you figure, oh, she's gonna tend to his wounds, you know. Oh, she sticks her head between his face and the camera. It goes, oh, baby, and looks at the camera just as she reaches behind. I hope you're okay, baby.
I got to grab that fame while you can. She could tell he wasn't going to be getting a lot more camera time.
Hey, in the future, everybody's going to be famous for 15 minutes. She was working on 30 seconds of it, you know. I care so much about my baby. How's that for the angle? Unbelievable. So now, who are these guys fighting? Who is the second of the card? Say it again.
Joe Soto and Anthony Burchak.
No, sorry, I don't care.
No, I don't care either. All right, heavyweights, Rowan Potts and Anthony Hamilton.
Well, you know, I have a reflexive thing. I know it drives everybody crazy when I do this. You telling me you care just because they're heavyweights? And I'm saying yes.
Yes, I too fall into this trap because thundering behemoths, you know, put them in a cage and let them rumble at one another. Although I remember being disappointed by Rowan Potts in his previous engagement.
Yeah, I know. You're right about that.
You know,
but you know, Anthony Hamilton is a possibility.
So, yep, it could be one of those Todd Duffy style 7-second knockouts, and that seeing a big hand.
And I think when we say care or something like that, what we're also saying is that there's a possibility, not less than remote, that this could be something cool. That's when I'm saying care. That's what I'm thinking about.
Me too. All right, next one, flyweight, Scott Jorgensen.
Yes.
And Olympic gold medalist Henry Cejudo.
Yeah. Yes. Big care on this one. Do you know why Cael Sanderson didn't go MMA?
I've heard various things. What are you going to tell us?
I'm going to tell you that the USA Wrestling wrote him a big, giant check to keep him in-house, you know.
Yes.
The big giant check they wrote to keep him in house, along with the head coach wrestling job, had very much to do with keeping him away from MMA and the UFC. Something they did not extend to Henry O. Henry.
No. Well, they didn't. It wasn't a quick decision. I mean, Henry basically coasted and didn't. He won the Olympic gold in 2008, and then in 2012 didn't even qualify for the team. So Henry's the people. Coach Mike Ridden has told us that the guys in the know in the wrestling community think Henry's a bit of a flake.
Well, I have to see. Haven't seen his MMA. At least one of his MMA fights. I don't know how many he's had at this point.
He's like 5-0, I think. He's undefeated.
Yeah.
But he's had some weigh-in issues, and I believe even had to cancel a fight over.
I don't know. I saw one of his fights, and you say he's 5-0. It must
6-0.
6-0. It must have been one of the fights he won. I was not impressed with his performance.
Ooh, going full GSP on him. That's pretty brutal. Well, his last 2 fights were decisions. First 4 were 3 TKO stoppages and 1 submission from punches. So,
I'd be interested. You know what? I'm gonna buck the odds makers, and I'm gonna pick Jorgensen.
Picking Jorgensen? I don't think that's entirely crazy pants.
What's that?
That's not entirely crazy pants. I think Jorgensen's a gritty veteran. He's also got his back to the wall. He's had a couple of losses. Hasn't done well in his flyweight career.
And if you've seen a wrestler who's taken submission seriously, I'd like to know who it is. Off the top of my head, I can't think of one.
Jake Shields.
When's the last time you saw Shields submit anybody?
That would be quite a while back. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think didn't he submit Lawler back in Strikeforce?
That's the last one I'm remembering.
Yep.
With the guillotine, standing guillotine.
Yep.
So actually, he jumped on his waist in the guillotine, but. Some people might make the claim that Jake Shields was not a real wrestler anyway, but he did wrestle. He did wrestle at SF State and Cuesta College down in San Luis Obispo. So.
Yeah. So I mean, but I don't think Jorgensen's going to be submitting Henry Cejudo, but he might be busting him up.
Yep. So. Well, he doesn't have to submit. He has to start threatening to submit to divert Henry's attention, and then bust him up seems to be the order of the day.
Yep, so that will be an interesting one. A lot of big stakes there. I'm kind of surprised they're rushing Cejudo in against Jorgensen, but that is how they work at the UFC. They throw guys in on the deep end. All right.
Well, they throw them in the deep end, but you also, I think the lessons were learned by guys who had high promise, big pay, and then they had to drag through 3 or 4 fights that weren't very interesting. And they're like, we learned our lesson. We're going to give you the big money. You got to start earning right away,
See, I wonder how much big money there is to be made on the prelim card on the Fox Sports 1 for a pay-per-view like this. But we will find out when the.
You'd be surprised.
I mean,
especially when the whole Mexico Central American attempts to enter the market. Henry would be a great feather in the cap.
That he would. So a lot on the stake here. I think he could be a breakout star for the UFC if he can get his act together and live up to his potential. All right, so headlining the Fox Sports 1 preliminary card, middleweights Lorenz Larkin and Derek Brunson. Are these guys gictas yet?
I don't think so, man. Come on,
No.
you gotta be careful. That's like calling a nation a rogue state. You gotta. If there's one cop and one fireman on duty, it's not a rogue state. Where'd they let you down?
Where didn't they let me down? Lorenz Larkin, 2 straight losses, Brad Tavares and Costa Philippou. He's 1-3 in his UFC career.
Yeah, but the idea is, did you expect something that you didn't get?
Yeah, because he wears that little Muay Thai skirt, and I feel like he's going to be Melvin Manhoff Jr., and then it doesn't happen. So,
okay.
And Derek Brunson I've never really expected a great deal.
Hey, is Brunson a Kogan guy? Derek Brunson, he's not, okay.
No. He got smushed by Yoel Romero his last time out, but he did beat Chris Lieben by decision and then submitted Brian Houston. So, but he got a fight of the night against Yoel Romero and did much better than I expected. So.
Yep. So you got a pick for this one?
Well, do we care?
I care.
I too care because, and I'm going to pick Brunson.
Yeah, me too.
Whoa, not even gonna make it interesting, huh?
Nah, sorry, I can't. Yeah, I mean, he's. I'm not saying Lorenz is a gift, but
I'm not
but
picking him.
but
That's
my wallet is very discriminating. My wallet talks to me. No, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
all right. That moves us on to the main card.
And you
Lightweights.
know what?
Yes.
You know what I did on Sunday?
What did
Something
you do on
I
Sunday?
haven't done in like a decade. Completely stiffed my waiter.
You stiffed your waiter at a restaurant. No
Yep,
tip at
yep.
all. None.
Serve me a crappy drink. Comes to the table, says, "Is everything okay?" I go, "This drink is terrible, man." He goes, "Oh, sorry." Bill comes. The drink is on the bill. I was like, "Hey, man, you see that drink sitting there? That drink sitting there had one sip taken out of it. There were no more sips taken out of it because it's terrible. Are you going to charge me for that drink?" And he's like, "Nothing I can do, man." I was like, "Okay, all right."
Oh, that's
Nothing you
brutal.
can do, huh?
That-
$8 for a shitty drink. There's something you can do, and it's called no tip.
What was the drink? What did you order?
It was a lychee martini.
A lychee martini.
Yeah.
A lychee martini. Isn't that its own reward? I mean, what did you expect from a lychee martini anyway?
Oh man, I've had some ones that have been phenomenal.
I see. So that's like what, vodka and a taste of vermouth and a lychee nut dropped in there?
You got it.
I see. Well, that's
Shaken, baby, not stirred.
shaken, baby, not stirred. So you're not a gin martini guy. You're a vodka martini guy.
I'll go either way on that one.
Either way, how can you be agnostic about gin or vodka?
Because I just drink to get drunk.
I see. And why are you complaining about your lychee martini then?
Well, that sucked. It sucked. It was like drinking turpentine, man. If I want to drink turpentine, I'll hang out in the parking lot and drink turpentine.
Was this a well drink? You got the cheap vodka and then you're complaining about it? Is that what happened?
Cheap? $8. I could have bought a bottle of vodka for $8 and had the whole thing to myself in the parking lot.
And it would have also tasted like turpentine.
But at least I wouldn't have had a guy mocking me and refusing to take it back.
I see. Did you wait and see his face?
I did the right. No, hey, don't try to shake me off of this. I did the right thing, and I put the big line through it, put it on the table, and I sat there. Like, yeah, what?
Eugene S.
Zero.
Robinson,
Who said,
American
baby?
hero. American hero. He lives so that others may live vicariously through his feats of daring do.
I'm a rebel, man. I'm a wild man.
Wow, man.
G-Crush is leaving. He's off to crush dreams elsewhere. Okay.
Well, I hope he drives carefully in his pursuit of dreams to crush. You stiffed the waiter.
So I like Lorenz, but I don't like him enough to pick him for this. No way.
Yeah. I think that's an entirely logical position, which is why it's so unusual and uncharacteristic of your fight prognostications, Eugene.
But the thing is, I guess you would have to measure in with my level of belief in him early on. Did I have a lot? I mean, I never,
He started like 4 Strikeforce challengers in a row. I mean, he had Scott Coker hot prospect written all over him.
Man, well, you said a lot right there. You said a lot right there.
Doesn't believe in the hype.
I mean, I hate to do this, man, but you got to go back through the mist of time and sort of try to remember Daniel Puder. I don't know if you remember him.
I do.
He was also a Scott Coker prospect, and I interviewed Scott Coker on Knuckle Up, and I hate to do this to a guy, but I just couldn't help it. I say, Scott, what's the deal with Daniel Puder, man? He's like, well, Daniel's a... I go, you know what? I don't want to see guys in the cage who I can beat. And yes, that is a challenge. If this guy, I'll get in the cage with Daniel Puder. If he can beat me, then I'll stop complaining. But until then, I don't want to see him in there. The hell,
Bold words, Eugene. And Coker just laughed it off?
No, Daniel Puder never fought again. So,
wow.
As far as I can tell.
Killing careers.
Then I felt guilty. Because he's a really, really nice guy. But,
Well, where nice guys finish, Eugene.
Yeah, right.
Indeed. And speaking of nice guys, main card opener, lightweights, Yancy Medeiros and Damon Jackson.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
You care?
Because of Medeiros. Yeah, I do.
I see. Because his name's Yancy?
Yeah, because his name is Yancy. I mean, you have to dig a little bit deeper, you know, going back to including there was a guy I knew named Yancey, where not only did I have sex with his wife, but I had sex with his girlfriend. So I got good feelings about a guy's named Yancey.
You had sex with his wife and his girlfriend. Was this concurrently, or was this like you had sex with his wife, broke up his marriage, and then found out he had a girlfriend and moved in on that too?
No, I got to the wife after they were separating, and I got to the wife.
I know, and that chaotic up in the air phase, which is a good time to move in.
A good time to just get in there, and you know, and Facebook helps with that a little bit. You know, you fly in, you know, and as soon as that changes status, you're right there, Johnny on the spot. And then got to the girlfriend. And the girlfriend dumped me, and then she ended up with the dude, and then it was like, hey, do you know my boyfriend? I go, I don't think so. I guess she goes, yeah, I guess that's right. I guess you know his wife. I was like, uh-oh.
Ooh.
That's when the cartoon character leaves a little, the little dust path behind him.
So you were with his girlfriend before she was his girlfriend.
Correct.
So it's not really a twofer.
No, it wasn't a twofer, but everybody was angry with me nonetheless.
I see. Yes. You probably aren't going to be invited to any of those dinner parties.
No.
No.
I'm pretty antisocial anyway, so I wouldn't be going if I wasn't invited. But yes, nobody's invited me.
I see. Well, it's good to know that they're, you know, I mean, because don't accept the invitation if they invite you, especially if they've all three reconciled.
Hey, you know, an ex invited me to her wedding. The night before her wedding, she was sleeping at my house in a strange turn of events. And then she gets to the wedding, and she says, look, you know, probably if you show up at the wedding, everyone will beat you up. And I was like, oh, yeah? Well, I'm showing up. And then, of course, I laid back on my bed and watched TV.
Wise choice.
Figuring correctly that I would be more present in my absence than I could be actually being present. So, you know.
I see. It sounds dramatic.
I was a young man then. This is a long time ago.
I see. We've learned lessons, kids.
No, I've learned nothing.
He's learned nothing. All right, but he does care about Yancey Medeiros and Damon Jackson, which is more than I can say.
Okay.
And my grandfather's name was Yakeley, so I feel like I've got a connection to this Yancey business. But
was his name Henry Yakeley?
No, it wasn't Henry Yakeley. Do you know a Henry Yakeley? Or?
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it.
I see. Yes. His name was Wesley Yakeley.
Okay.
Smith,
all right.
Actually, but all right. Lightweights: Ramsey Nijum and Carlos Diego Ferreira.
I care because of Nijum. Nijum I paid attention to. Ferreira, I don't know.
Yeah, that's there are a number of UFC debutantes here, and I believe Ferreira might be one of those. 10-0. But I definitely care about Nijum, although, is he a gigged?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
Although he's got a 2-fight win streak going, but...
You know what a 2-fight win streak is?
What's that?
It's nothing.
It's nothing. That is harsh.
Seriously, man. Seriously, you know?
Harsh. And this is not Carlos Diego Ferreira's UFC debut. He beat Colton Smith at UFC Fight Night, Swanson versus Stevens.
I'd like to talk about something that was really pretty phenomenal, and it seemed to me to pass with relatively little notice, and that has to do with the UFC Fight Night in Macau, where they actually removed the judge.
Did you see Dana White apologize to said judge?
No, I didn't see it.
Yes, that came out this morning, Eugene. It was big news. The first time I've ever heard of our own dear leader apologizing for his actions.
That's now the story's got even heavier.
Yeah, they said it was a breach of protocol and not what he should have been doing.
Well, no, I mean, who knew that Dana could actually remove a judge, which finally shines a flashlight on it in a really weird and uncomfortable way, because it makes you, if you could, somewhere Cecil Peoples is going, hot diggity dog.
Well, that's why he only works in the United States, where there's a commission between him and the tender mercies of Dana White. But see, Mark Ratner wasn't there in Macau. He was in Tulsa, and dealing with the Dominique Strauss situation there in the Jordan Mean hotel room situation. Dominic Strauss-Kahn.
Good for you, Dominic
take-
Strauss-Kahn.
You take these guys from like Western Alberta, and you give them room service and car service, and boom, they think they're international diplomats. So,
hey man, you know what? I've known a couple of women who were like hotel maids, and it was like daily. You know, it's like mother. You know, I remember once I was in a hotel in Chicago, and I was into my cups, maybe. Let's just say that. And
what happened to the straight edge, Eugene?
That stopped when I was 36.
I see. Did you ever really have the straight edge?
No, I never did. I've always been an exercise fanatic, but during that, you know, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink soda, you know, didn't eat a huge amount of garbage. But, you know, in college, I had moments of experimentation, expanding my mind.
I see.
The colors! You know. But so the maid comes to the door, and suddenly I open the door, and I realize that I've left my cups, let's call them those, all over the desk. And I need to think fast. So I go, let me put on some clothes, even though I was already clothed. So I close the door, I put a towel over the cups, and I come back with like a robe on, and she was bringing food. And I was like, all right, come on in. She goes, no, after you. I go, no, it's okay, after you. She just stands in the hallway, looks at me, goes, no, after you. She was not gonna fucking walk in front of me, no way. She put the tray down, didn't let me, you know, her plane of vision, always in the plane of vision. So, you know, I gave her a nice big tip and then, you know, let her go on her way. But, yeah, it's a drag.
Well, hotels, I've known some people in the hotel business, and I see a seedy side of life.
Yeah,
really,
it's terrible.
Really do.
It's terrible, man.
And the more upscale the hotel, the seedier the side of life.
Hey, you know, once I got sent on a business trip to Germany, and they said, what hotel would you like? Would you like the Adlon, which is in Berlin, the big old fancy, you know, super where Nazis used to stay? I said, or do you want? I said, I don't want to stay at the old Nazi hotel. And they said, well, what about the Intercontinental? And I said, that's just a corporate chain. They go, Bill Clinton stays there. I go, I'll take it. Because I knew that if Bill was staying there, that it had to have the finest cut. And one thing that I noticed, the walls were super thick. Like you could set off a howitzer in your room, the person next door wouldn't hear. And I was like, I got you, Bill. I got you.
Indeed. Luxury living and insulated walls. That is a key part of luxury living, I must say. Did you ever read Jim Thompson's memoirs about being a hotel boy in the Depression in the 30s? Jim Thompson, author of The Killer Inside Me and
Great book.
The Grifters and many another classic. I highly recommend. I can't remember the name of the title right now, but the memoir of him as a coke peddling hotel bellboy in the 1920s is quite a read. They knew how to get it on back in the day in the most shady and disreputable manner. All right, so Ramsey Nijem and Carlos Diego Ferreira, we care about Nijem provisionally. All right, that brings us
I can't pick Nijem, I just care about it.
Just care about him, yeah, because he's going against a guy who's undefeated, but we'd have to know
We always knew you would fail, but never quite so spectacularly.
Indeed. And that brings us to women's bantamweight fight. And you've been accused of being a sexist who just likes the ladies, likes every ladies fight. Besh Carrera versus Shayna Baszler. Care?
Yeah, I care.
Because?
Baszler.
Yeah. Not Betcha?
Even though I'd have to say this woman who flipped out because of the lousy call in...
Elizabeth Phillips.
Man, she's hot. And I don't mean sexy hot. She was angry. I love that. You know, letting it all hang. I hate this. Once I was shanghaied into a New Year's Day hike. You know, you're married. You got to be like sort of really patient about this stuff. Oh, we're gonna go hiking on New Year's Day. It's raining and windy, and we went out to Santa Cruz and the cliff, and there's like lightning off in the distance, gale force winds, and I'm like, gotta play along. Can't say anything. Can't. And my middle kid at one point just screams at the top of her lungs, "I hate this!" And I was like, "Man, I love this kid." Same with Phillips. It's like, none of this political, well, I hate it. I hate you. I hate the UFC. I hate this sport. If she could combine that with the woman who jumped over the barrier to beat up a fan, man, I tell you, there's no reason to not like women's MMA. Women fight a lot hotter than men. I like that.
It's true. It's true. I'm curious to know if she'll come back. And that, ironically enough, was one of the 2 fights that Dana White fired the judge for. Yeah. Although, the funny part is the judge was in agreement with the majority of judges in every round. So, admittedly, both the 2 fights of my cow card were fishy, and there weren't any more fishy decisions after that, but he picked the judge who was not the outlier. So,
which is why he apologized.
Perhaps so. And more importantly, it's the appearances. If Mark Ratner had been there, he would have cooled Dana White off. They would have said something after the fight or behind the scenes. They wouldn't have had just a public yanking of a judge. That was just...
What I would have liked, and what I used to prefer as my favorite party trick is... actually, the derivation would be the party trick. When you sometimes at a party, you find yourself alone with a person. Maybe the person you're just a guy you've been talking to, you've at the drink table, maybe you're getting some broccoli, some chips, some dip, and you're just alone with somebody. And the conversation is going pretty nice. And I had a friend who, as a routine measure, when they got that lull in the conversation, he would look at the person and go, you know what? And the guy would go like, what? Like, are you going to tell me something cool? If you tell me, buddy, I'll kill you. That's it. Period. Close quote. And so the guy, tell the buddy what? What have we been talking? He just, that's it. So Dana, along those lines, you just lean over to the judge. I'll kill you. Period. Close quote. Done. See how that affects the judges for the rest of the fight. Fuck what he's gonna get. Or like with Scott Einstein Epstein from 10th Planet when I fought him at some museum show. If you try anything out there, I'll kill you. Pretty much, you can't go wrong with that as a suffix to any sentence you might have. I'll kill you works no matter what. Would you like fries with that? I'll kill you.
Oh, Eugene. Oh, I don't even know. I
had some woman who I wrote about at Ozzy, a stunt woman. Next day, I get an email from her. I will kill you.
Wow, must have been a good article.
I narrowed her age down to the decade, and she was like, in Hollywood, you cannot do that, It was like, hey, I'm a journalist. You are in your 50s, is that correct, And I said, not only that, you're a cop, and you're threatening my life. She goes, oh, I'm only joking. I was like, yeah, some of us don't find that to be so funny.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't be revealing any ladies' names, especially in Hollywood, Eugene. That's
Yeah, well,
Did you do that when you were with the Hustler Adult Video Guide?
I turned the job down, man. You missed that part.
I thought you had the job. You were there.
No, all I had to do was say yes, and then Intel offered me the job as editor-in-chief.
So you never were with Hustler.
I wrote several articles for Hustler as a freelancer.
I see, but you're never editor.
Yeah, and Hustler's Busty Beauty, but I refused to take the job as editor-in-chief of Hustler Erotic Video Guide.
I see. Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes more sense, because having the Hustler Erotic Video Guide on your CV makes it hard to get those Intel jobs.
Yeah, you got that right. I thought about that at the time. I said, Intel on the resume, I go a lot more places than Hustler Erotic Video Guide on the resume.
It's true. Yeah. Even if it said Larry Flint Enterprises, that probably...
No, you would put on your resume LFP.
LFP.
So I've done a lot of work for Hustler, for Hustler's Busty Beauties. They tried to bring me into barely legal, but I thought there was a distasteful tone. And I did not. I
didn't care for the tone.
I didn't care for the tone. I've always favored older women myself, actually. So of course, I guess that is until I got old.
Indeed. Yeah, when you look at Facebook, the gals you went to high school with, man, the years have been hard for some of my classmates.
That's why I say, man, Facebook has done something really magical, and that's destroyed nostalgia. If you remember, 15 years ago, you would have been sitting around going, hey, I wonder whatever happened to Tiffany, and you wouldn't have known until it was way too late.
Indeed. Maybe a drunken phone call and then a meeting, and then you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, stuck in the coffee shop, climbing out the window. That's what we call it. D&D, buddy, dine and ditch. What happened to you? I got sick. But you ran out on the bill. Yeah, I got sick.
Don't do as we have done, kiddies. Don't do as we have done. All right, so
I've never climbed out a bathroom window.
That's a good thing.
I've climbed in through a few bathroom windows, but that's another story.
She came in through the bathroom window. Oh, no Beatles references. And you know what? You haven't even made a Nazi reference. And I'm reading.
I did. I made 3. What's the matter with you?
What 3? 3 Nazi references. When?
Go back and listen to the old show.
I see. I'm reading
about the Adolf, the mustaches.
Ah, that's right. That was a Nazi reference, indeed. I'm reading William Shearer's The Nightmare Years, the author of Rise and Fall of the Third Reich.
Hold on, man. Hold on. Somebody's at the door. Hold on.
Oh, Eugene has to answer the door of the gym. I will talk about Besh Korea and Shayna Baszler because I care, because I think Korea is going places, but Baszler is not. Coming in off a loss, I find it crazy making that they've got a gal 2-0 in the UFC going in against somebody that's got a losing streak going.
There we go.
I had to fill the air, but
Did you do something with Beatles stuff again?
Nope, I didn't. I talked about the fight, actually, because I want to talk about the Nightmare Years. You've read The Rise and Fall of the Third Reich, right?
Yep.
Okay.
William Shirer.
Yeah, Shirer wrote a memoir, The Nightmare Years, towards the end of his life, about his years in Berlin, and it's fascinating. I'm reading that.
Oh, I thought he was going to talk about the last 10 years of my life.
No, these were the years when he watched the Nazis prepare for war in Europe. But very entertaining read.
I just read there was a book about the American diplomat who was he was the ambassador to Germany, stationed in Berlin. Completely fascinating. Maybe it was written by his daughter. I'm not remembering, but it was.
Was that Dodd?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it was a great book, really great book. So.
Yeah, Scherer said that he had no truck with the Nazis. That Dodd would just openly just say, "You're a stupid asshole." And
he was running a lot of risk. Yeah, it was a great. His daughter was maybe 21 at the time. Thought it was a great time. Had a really fantastic time. And she was like, one day there were people like clamoring on the street, and there was noise and uproar. And she thought, oh, it's a parade! How gay and wonderful, a parade. And then as the crowd cleared, she could see Berliners driving before them 2 or 3 Gold Star Jews, beating, kicking, spitting, laughing. And she was sort of appalled, and she was like, what did they do? And somebody looked at her like, do? They're Jews, and she goes up to a cop and says something to the cop like, you've got to stop this. And the cop looks at her like, where are you from? But she goes, that was the first inkling that she had that all was not right. Prior to then, she used Albert Speer's line, which was, Jews? I ain't know nothing about no Jews. That's a period, close quote, direct.
Ouch.
Suddenly, Albert Speer, as a guy from Brooklyn, Jews, I ain't know nothing about no Jews. I never seen them in there. They was never there. They was never there.
Very convincing. And Speer, got away with it. He did some
because it was one of my favorite kind of possible lies, which is so incredible that you figure nobody in their right mind would ever tell it. It's like that time when I was a lifeguard at the kids' camp, and I hear this smashing glass, and I walk around the corner, and the kid's got a T-shirt full of rocks and a rock in his hand. I go, quit breaking the glass! He's like, I'm not breaking any glass.
Future lawyer right there.
Man, it got me. I just gotta go, and I just walked off. Man, that kid's got a career in politics ahead of him. I am not breaking any glass at this moment in time.
That was a true statement as well.
It was true. Actually true.
Indeed. All right, well, let's keep this moving. Lightweights, Tony Ferguson and Danny Castillo, and I can't believe it's a co-main event.
Yeah, I can't believe that either, but I do care about it.
I do too, because Tony Ferguson, I like Tony, and I like Danny Castillo. These, I consider Tony Ferguson a frenemy as a fan. Like, I don't like him, but I enjoy watching his fights.
Yeah, that's about right.
And Danny Castillo, I like.
Yeah. But I don't think Danny Castillo is necessarily shoo-in to win this.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. It should be it should be a scrap, I think. I'm not worried about Castillo, but remember Ferguson destroyed Kikuno in his last fight.
You know what happens to me sometimes. I mean, you've read Naked Lunch, right?
Of course, many
Okay.
times.
So, but more specifically, do you remember when Burroughs talks about that Naked Lunch moment? I mean, where the title itself came
When he
from?
realized the truth at the end of your newspaper spoon.
The end of your fork.
Yes, yes.
Specific. And that used to happen to me, like in life. Like I used to get these really deep obsessions with like Fig Newtons. And when I was a kid, like 5 or 6, and then one day I'd be eating a Fig Newton, I'd look at it and go, what a like eating, And sometimes with MMA, it's really funny. Sometimes I just had that like cat walk across my grave, just as you mentioned this fight, Castillo with Ferguson, and I just had that moment when you said it'd be a good scrap. And I go, man, this is a weird thing that we do, I got that like shiver inside, and then I look outside and I see a guy like who I hate, and I go, oh yeah.
All is right with the world.
Oh, it's just a momentary glimmer, the eternal world of Eugene Robinson. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'd pick Ferguson. How about that?
Yeah, I got to pick Ferguson too. Although I don't fear for Castillo's safety.
No,
I think he'll be more than capable of taking.
Speaking of
care of
which,
himself.
I would like to actually take a little bit. I'm concerned specifically about not a friend of Knuckle Up, but a friend of Fight Everything You Ever Want to Know About Castillo. Asking Big John McCarthy. I think that there might be a time for a guy to step back for a bit.
You think he stopped that fight too soon?
I think all the fights that were stopped too soon were stopped by him. Yeah.
Huh.
Not super too soon, but it's a rhythmic thing.
Just a hair.
A beat too soon. Whereas compare that with Migliotta after his moment of doubt and pain, where he stopped that fight too early, and he probably went home and thought, you know what? These guys are putting everything on the line. They have signed on their tax returns as fighter, and I cannot be in a position to screw with that. I really can't, I mean, the guy knows he's going to take some damage. I want them to leave the cage feeling like they left it all in the cage. So now Migliotta, like, you got to get you got to look like you're about to die before he's going to. But John is doing it on the other way, and it might be that you get older, you start getting sensitive, man.
So Eugene thinks Big John is going soft.
A little early, just a little early, just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Well, we'll see. I don't know if he's going to be refereeing any fights on Saturday, but he might be. He's back. He's licensed in Nevada again now that Keith Kaiser's gone. All right, that brings us to the main event. TJ Dillashaw versus Hanan Barao in a rematch of a fight we just saw a couple months ago that was not particularly competitive.
I don't know if I care about this. I'm joking. I care quite a bit.
Team Alpha Male versus Nova Unao?
Yeah, because it's gotten way bigger than even the individuals now.
Bang Ludwig versus Uriah Faber?
Yeah, it's gotten big. It's got inter big, and intra big. It's gotten big.
Indeed. And yet the fight itself, are there unanswered questions? Can Barao turn it around? What can Barao do differently? He got his ass whipped last time.
I think he got surprised. And if you are not mindful of the fact that these guys are mindful of where they are when they're there, you're completely wrong. I mean, at the point where the guy realizes in the first round, man, I'm in trouble. God damn, I'm actually in trouble. What do I? Okay, I can still turn this around. I got some stuff in the second round. Let me see what I get. And then the second round is like, Jesus Christ, he's actually down 2. That means he's just got to win one more. And you're panicking and you're doing some kind of, actuary stuff in the cage. You're like, he was surprised. There are no surprises now. He knows that this guy is going to try to kill him, and keep the belt. So if he doesn't, there won't be any. I mean, come on. The guy was on how long of a win streak?
33 fights.
33 fights. He didn't see that coming. Now that he sees it coming, now we'll see. And, the knock against Brazilian fighters is that even seeing it won't affect the outcome because these guys quit inside. But, I don't know. I mean, and what's Dillashaw been doing the past few months,
I know. I don't think he's been it's not like he's Buster Douglas. And so he hasn't been on the Tonight Show or anything.
Yeah, I've been seeing him around with his girlfriend.
Oh, yeah? He's been cruising around NoCal.
Yeah. I saw him at the last UFC fight in San Jose. You know.
I see. Was he drinking, beer belly? Just
Nah. But you know, the girlfriend was appeared to be of the type that takes a lot of time and attention.
I see.
Lest you turn your back for half a second.
Perhaps he should have heeded the warnings of William Burroughs. William Burroughs tried to warn young men away from women. Women have poison juices, he said.
Yeah, well, William Burroughs had an agenda.
He did, an active recruiter.
Yeah, you don't need to mess around with. You know who David Thorstad is?
I do not know.
Of course you don't, because you're a good guy. David Thorstad used to be the head of the National North American Man-Boy Love Association.
Oh my God, NAMBLA.
NAMBLA, and he had the world's worst, most famous all-time quote, which was like, "There isn't a boy in America right now who doesn't need a blowjob." I'm like, look, you might be right, but whether or not they get it from the supple lips of a woman of age, or the trembling, grizzled mouth of an old degenerate is a different story, you know.
NAMBLA. Yeah, boy. Those guys.
But we interviewed Thorstad, and then he was immediately thrown in jail, making that the second guy that we had business with who was immediately post facto thrown in jail, the first being the guy who was the head of Rockorama Records, who was doing business with me for a long time. The number one white power record label in Germany.
And did he? I don't know Rockorama. Did he go to jail for violating the German anti-Nazi laws?
Oh, yeah. They broke into his warehouse and seized all of his Screwdriver records and White Power T-shirts and took them away.
I see.
As well as Stigmata's second CD.
The one that they burned you for.
He didn't burn me for it. He was going to pay me to license the first one, and then chose not to.
But then he signed them, and they went around you, and.
Yeah, but they didn't. They just recorded more music, which was the right thing to do.
Yeah, but still.
No. If they had tried to screw me on that, that would have been bad for everybody.
But still, you had to feel like some Schadenfreude when their records just sat in the warehouse and got busted. I mean.
No, I actually didn't. I was more kind of like when Chuck Dukowski broke up blackface, and then started Flag, and all the lawsuits started flying thick and heavy, and I was like,
glad you're out of that one.
It's like that night I was in San Francisco, and a friend of mine decided it'll be really funny if I break into a police paddy wagon and steal their hats and mag lights, unbeknownst to me. And we're walking down the street. It was a triple date, double blind date. And these two guys I was with were walking ahead with women, and they were, talking to the women. And one guy was feeling pretty happy about his punk rock jacking of the police van. And I see these Mexican guys across the street on Broadway pointing to them, and I see a cop car, Starsky and Hutch, like 100 miles an hour the wrong way down the street. And I was like, uh-oh. And I just start slowing up a bit. And I say to my friends, Jake, John, Jake. And at a certain point I could hear, they weren't hearing me because they were paying attention to the women. I was like, cut and run, buddy. And I just slow down and walk into a video arcade, and the cops get them at the corner, and it's like, it was like a cartoon beating, man. You could see nothing but fists, sticks, and dust. And then, like, the Mexican cats who turned them in start screaming at the cops, pointing to me. Like, hey, there's another one. And I look over at the guys, and I go like this. Like, come on. And then they kind of, like, I guess they kind of came to their senses, like, yeah, okay, we can let him get away. And they haul my buddies off to jail, and the girls come to me and go, however will we get home to our expensive private college? They went to Mills. And I said, well, I don't have a car, so but I can hang out with you guys, all three of you lonely girls.
Silvery is
then the party takes on, then you get the wah-wah guitar starts.
Wah.
Good night for me, bad night for my stupid friends.
I see. Well, let the punishment fit the crime. That seems like instant karma.
Well, did I mention that he also had a bunch of crystal meth on him?
Oh.
So when the police searched him, he was in bed. And then he said, I knew I was in trouble. Later after he told me, I knew I was in trouble when they just walked me by the jail cells.
Yes.
They took him down to the parking garage, and then they walk him up to they sort of stanchion there with a mattress wrapped around it. And he goes, hey guys, what's happening? And they handcuffed him face first to the stanchion, and then the party began.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was a bad night for John.
That sounds like a bad night.
Bad night for John. Yeah. And then the other guy who got arrested was an engineer at Intel, so he just pulled his. I'm a member of the, and he was out that night. But John,
I see.
No, not John.
Well, live and learn. I guess
and of course, because there wouldn't be a Eugene story without this, later John committed suicide.
Oh.
All right, thank you for coming. Glad that you could.
As a result of this particular fiasco, or are there more fiascos?
No, he got his father was a big Silicon Valley executive who turned his back on the family, so John was like a hard-scrabble street kid. Went to Alaska, worked in a cannery for like 2 years, got his act together, got cleaned up, had a bunch of money, came back to the Bay Area, finally was working his ass off like 17 hours a day, really straight and narrow, fell asleep he worked the swing shift when he got to the Bay Area, fell asleep, plowed his van into a Mercedes-Benz. And this is an important part of the story. He calls the cops to do the right thing. This is in the days before cell phones. Goes to a payphone and says, look, this is what happened. I just moved back to the state. I haven't got my registration on the and they said, well, you're in big trouble. Probably what's going to happen is this and this and this and this. And the guy just felt this kind of hopeless sense of, I'm never going to get ahead. All the money I made in Alaska for 2 years, I now have to pay to defend myself. And he went back to his car, took the .22 out of his glove box, and shot himself in the head. Which, the story, to me, is if the guy had crashed into a Pinto, the story would have probably ended very differently. I don't know this for a fact, but one of the funniest guys I ever knew, his name was John Norman. Good guy.
Well, and now he's gone. So.
Now he's gone. But, that was ill-advised. Those cops have to pay for that stuff themselves.
Yep. Yep. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Well, anyway, and I had a cheery
anecdote. How do you like that? I just veered the entire show into a ditch.
Now I can't even talk about Julius Streicher, the Nazi pressman who died.
He was terrible. He was terrible.
He was. He's kind of catching my attention in this.
People at some point, people need to talk about syphilis at some point.
You think syphilis was a big part of the Streicher problem?
Some of these guys, you have to talk about it because.
Tertiary syphilis is a cause of the behavior. Because this was a guy who liked to go down the streets of Nuremberg with a bullwhip.
Yeah.
And just make hay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What they used to call one of my favorite phrases of all, freedom of the streets.
Freedom of the streets. Yes.
Freedom of the streets. Yeah, it was freedom of the streets. That's got to be the greatest euphemism ever, man. I'm walking down the sidewalk and I see some jerk, and that phrase just pops into my head. Freedom of the streets. Freedom
of the streets, indeed, indeed. Fascists, not quite as law and order as you might think, it turns out.
Well, they were defending, you're wrong about that. They changed the laws to adhere to their personal sets of beliefs. After the beer hall putsch, which was a copy of Mussolini's March on Rome, Hitler figured out, I got to change the laws. Or like Stalin said, does this man weigh more than Russia? No. Okay, he doesn't weigh more than Russia. So get the confession. You got to change the laws because Hitler, no matter what, unless he changed the laws, didn't weigh more than Germany. So.
That's right. Well, and hopefully everybody learned their lesson from World War II. That's all I have to say. Bad, bad Nazis. Bad. Don't do it again. Don't do it again. All right, so...
We've never had any other massacres after that, thank God. Oh, I mean outside of Cambodia. Well, outside of... Yeah. Well, then, of course, there was always...
Don't forget Mao in China. Mao was putting numbers together. Hitler...
70 mil. 70 mil. But, there was some guy who I believe was a Chinese state national, probably, disguised, told me that the June Chang thing was... her book was Lies and Fabrications. But,
I saw that in the YouTube comments. And there's some room for debate about the total numbers that Mao killed, and it wasn't as organized as Hitler. The Great Leap Forward was starvation in massive numbers, but it's arguable whether or not Mao knew what was happening.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't as organized as Stalin. But the Cultural Revolution, that was some down and dirty, low, underhanded shit, and lots of people were dying, and Mao knew it. Anyway, so back to UFC 177.
So we care.
But I don't think it's a $54.95 care, man. I would pay like $15 for this thing if it was on pay-per-view. This is not even as good. I think the card Saturday in Tulsa was better than this, other than the headliner.
Yeah, right. Well, but it becomes a boxing style fight where you got the main fight and the anchor fight, and then you've got some other fights that are sort of worth it. So your question is like how many pre-headline fight cares do I have to have before I feel like that was kind of worth an evening's entertainment? And I'd say 3. Do we have 3 cares?
We do have 3 cares.
So 3 cares in a 5-round headliner fight with both of those guys are super hot. You're right.
Mr. Sunny Side Up. Mr. Sunny Side Up.
It's probably a $44.95 fight.
$44.95. Man, I can't go there. I think it's a $25 fight tops. Tops. That's what this is worth.
I think you'll sing a different tune afterwards. I think these.
Well, we will find out. We will find out.
They're going to be going crazy.
We'll find out, and Eugene will be back on Monday to tell us all about UFC 177 with Knuckle Up. Of course, we'll have the vivisection. Connor Zane and Dallas will be back with the whole breakdown of these fights in detail, either tomorrow or Friday.
And if somebody reminds me, I will tell you the Julian Dong story, and that's well worth it, talking about Chinese nationals and the long reach of the Chinese government. However, since I've now said that, I will probably be murdered before the next Knuckle Up. If I'm not murdered, somebody please remind me on the next Knuckle Up number, round 402, I will tell you the Julian Dong story.
The Julian Dong story coming up, Knuckle Up 402. I will be back with the 6th round with Zane Simon after the fights for UFC 177. We'll not do a bathrobe review. Give us a like on this video. Subscribe to MMANation.com on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at KidNate. Eugene is at Eugene S. Robinson. Any other plugs that we need to get in there?
I just want to thank people again for the sex column titles, the input.
None of which you used.
Yeah, of course not.
Sex with Eugene is a
no. People sent in questions, and some of the questions from Knuckle Up listeners appear in the 3rd and the 4th sex column, I think, or the 2nd and 3rd. So.
All right, well, something to look forward to. And adios, MMA aficionados. We will catch you next time.
All right, man. See you.
All right, thanks, Eugene.